In recent years, China's impact on the world stage has increased at an unparalleled rate. Latin America is one area that has been impacted by China's rise. China's influence in Latin America is evident, ranging from significant investments in the region's natural resources to huge infrastructural projects. But what does this mean for the regional nations and citizens? The economic, political, and social ramifications of China's expanding influence in Latin America will be discussed in this video. We will gain a clearer comprehension of the advantages and difficulties associated with this partnership. Join us as we explore the implications of China's expanding influence in Latin America for the future of the region. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest videos. Now, let's get started. China's investment in Latin America and the Caribbean has grown significantly in volume and diversification during the past 10 years. China has made significant investments in the region's space industry and improved its military connections with a number of nations, most notably Venezuela. In 2015, China promised to make $250 billion in direct investments with governments in Latin America. China's increased investment in infrastructure projects is a sign of its expanding influence in Latin America. The region's economic growth has been significantly impacted by China's investment in Latin America. These expenditures have, among other things, been made to increase access to electricity and transportation. Chinese investments have sparked the construction of roads, ports, and other forms of transportation, increased trade between the two regions, and given Latin American nations new business prospects. For instance, China has made investments in Colombia's oil sector, assisting the nation in increasing its oil production. The Nicaragua Canal, which was intended to match the Panama Canal in terms of size and capacity, was one famous project that was shelved. It was anticipated that the canal, which was to be built by a Chinese business with significant Chinese investment, would increase trade in the area. In Argentina, where China has funded the development of a nuclear power plant, Chinese investment has also been significant. The facility, which will be hailed as a landmark victory for China's nuclear industry, is anticipated to meet a sizable amount of Argentina's energy requirements. China has also invested in a number of other projects involving the construction of ports, motorways, and railways. For instance, China has contributed to the development of a railway line in Peru and Brazil that would link the Pacific and Atlantic coasts of both countries. It is anticipated that the project will lower transportation costs and boost trade between the two Latin American nations and China. Despite the fact that Chinese investment has boosted economic growth in Latin America, there are worries about how it will affect the region's economic sovereignty and how much political influence China will have there. China's investment, according to critics, would strengthen the region's economic dependence on China and impair its capacity to negotiate favorable trade agreements. Furthermore, China's investments in vital strategic areas like infrastructure and energy could give the country disproportionate sway over political and economic choices made in the region. There have been allegations of unethical behavior on the part of Chinese businesses, as well as violations of labor and environmental laws. Civil society organizations have started keeping track of Chinese investment and pushing for more accountability and transparency. Sustainable development requires a healthy win-win relationship between China and Latin America. In conclusion, the economic growth of Latin America has been significantly influenced by China's involvement in the region. Latin American infrastructure initiatives financed by China have included, among other things, the improvement of energy and transportation access. While these initiatives have boosted economic growth and given Latin American nations new opportunities, they have also sparked worries about the region's economic sovereignty and China's expanding economic and political influence. It is essential for China and Latin American nations to build a balanced and mutually beneficial relationship that respects the region's economic sovereignty and encourages sustainable growth as China continues to invest in the region. Chinese investment in Latin America has been distinguished by its growing commitment to infrastructure projects intended to increase access to electricity and transportation. According to a research by the Collective on Chinese Financing and Investments, Human Rights and Environment, Many of these projects have, however, led to significant abuses of human and environmental rights. Most of the projects the collective examined had infringed on people's rights to live in a safe and sustainable environment, while other projects had violated the collective rights of indigenous peoples. A few projects had also violated people's civil, political, and economic rights. 2 projects were named as the main offenders: the Chinese-developed Marcona Mine project in Peru and the Coca-Codo-Sinclair hydropower project in Ecuador. These projects have been accused of endangering the environment and violating people's rights, particularly those of indigenous peoples. Concerns about environmental and social standards being broken by Chinese investors in the region have been expressed by a coalition of NGOs from Latin America. The collective's research emphasizes that deforestation, which occurs both for logging and to make room for infrastructure projects, is a severe issue that affects many Chinese projects in Latin America. The research also highlights how these initiatives sparked economic growth, but also sparked worries about political sway and economic sovereignty. Civil society organizations have started keeping track of Chinese investment and pushing for more accountability and transparency. They contend that sustainable growth depends on a fair and mutually beneficial connection between China and Latin America. China must make sure that its investments uphold environmental and human rights standards and involve local communities in decision-making. Governments in Latin America, on the other hand, must make sure that they are able to engage with China while upholding their own sovereignty. To sum up, Chinese investment in Latin America has the potential to spur economic growth, but it must be done in a way that respects human and environmental rights. It is the obligation of both China and Latin America to make sure that their partnership is mutually beneficial and long-lasting. China's approach to investment in Latin America differs significantly from that of the United States and other Western countries. While the U.S. has typically focused on promoting liberal democracy and free markets in the region, China has focused on infrastructure development and investment in natural resources. Chinese investment in Latin America has been significant in recent years, with the region receiving billions in Chinese investment. This investment has primarily gone towards infrastructure projects such as roads, ports, and railways, as well as investments in the extractive industries. In contrast, Western countries have tended to invest in Latin America through foreign aid and development programs. These programs have focused on promoting democracy and human rights, as well as supporting economic development. However, Chinese investment in Latin America has been criticized for its lack of transparency and accountability. Many of the projects funded by China have been associated with environmental and human rights violations, including deforestation, exploitation of indigenous peoples, and labor rights abuses. Western countries, on the other hand, have generally placed a greater emphasis on social and environmental responsibility in their investments. They have also been more willing to engage with civil society organizations and promote democratic institutions in the region. Overall, while Chinese investment in Latin America has brought significant economic benefits, it has also raised serious concerns about human and environmental rights violations. Western countries have taken a more cautious approach, emphasizing the importance of social and environmental responsibility in their investments. China's growing influence in Latin America also has significant political implications, both for the region and for the balance of global power. China has been investing heavily in infrastructure and natural resources in Latin America, making it one of the region's largest trading partners. This investment has brought economic benefits, but it has also raised concerns about human and environmental rights violations. One of the main implications of China's growing influence in Latin America is the potential for a shift in the balance of global power. As China expands its economic and political influence in the region, it could challenge the dominance of the United States and other Western countries. This could lead to increased competition between China and the West for influence in Latin America, which could have geopolitical implications. Another political implication of China's investment in Latin America is the potential for increased corruption and lack of transparency. China's investment in the region has been criticized for its lack of accountability and transparency, which could lead to corruption and human rights abuses. This could undermine democratic institutions and processes in Latin America, which could have long-term political consequences. Furthermore, China's approach to investment in Latin America has raised concerns about environmental sustainability. China's focus on natural resource extraction and infrastructure development could lead to environmental degradation and exacerbate the effects of climate change. This could have significant political implications as environmental issues become increasingly important on the global stage. In conclusion, China's growing influence in Latin America has significant political implications, including a potential shift in the balance of global power, increased corruption and lack of transparency, and environmental sustainability concerns. As China continues to expand its influence in the region, it will be important for Latin American countries to carefully consider the political implications of Chinese investment and ensure that it aligns with their long-term political interests. As we've seen, China's impact on Latin America is multifaceted, with economic, political, and social implications. Through investments and projects, China has become an increasingly important player in the region, and it's important to understand how this relationship will shape the future of Latin America. We hope this video has shed some light on this complex topic and encouraged further discussion and analysis. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.